can hear the slush. Yay, Dada.
When I think about the biggest breakthroughs or insights in my life, they're always so obvious or simple that it's hard to even integrate. And there's this confusion when something doesn't integrate of why it's not integratable. And let me put this into a way that hopefully you can understand. But for me, like for the longest time, having physical tension has been such a big issue in my life. Like if someone said, like, if I could solve one problem in your life, what would it be? And it'd be just this like roller coaster of tension that I'm always sort of like fidgeting my way through my days. And this has dramatically improved over the last few years, especially the last few months and especially the last few weeks. And so I think now I'm finally able to wrap my head around it, because now it's not so much of a problem. But even now I can still see where I have this resistance. So when something's so simple to solve, yet it doesn't get solved, that's where this very complex issue lies. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. So if you have physical tension that can be solved from working out every day and iterating and improving upon that foundation and that consistency, and you know that's the answer and you've seen little hints of it, but then you look at the day and you look at the day before and you look at, how you generally show up, and you see that you kind of don't do it the way that you're supposed to. And it's relatively simple and you're capable, yet you don't do it. You put other things that come before it, and you just kind of like pitter-patter around the core thing that you should be doing. But then when someone comes to you and says, what's the core thing that you want solved in your life? You're like, this thing. And you're like, well, it's always something that you can solve yourself. And it's generally something that's pretty simple. And it's hard to wrap your head around why you can't do something that's so simple. Because it's simple. Why can't you do it? You can't really explain it. And so then it just becomes this vague friction in your life that you just carry with you and kind of like banter with. And I almost feel like it's kind of like having a relationship with someone it's not really serving. Like you're both kind of holding each other back. There's things you don't talk about. There's things that bug you about each other, but you never face it because you're just kind of like holding that like low bar and that minimum that you can to just kind of like get through the day and deal with the people you have around you. And like, I don't know, I can think about relationships I've had in my life, or people I've seen in their relationships with people, where I'm like, that relationship is just kind of like nurturing this procrastinative side of them, or they're kind of holding each other back. I think we all do that with our own selves and with the people around us. We kind of just get by rather than progress and cultivate and empower each other. We're kind of just like, we hold the bar just enough to maintain life together, but there's things that we don't face about each other, about ourselves, and there's things that we don't. Yeah, we're like not constantly empowering and uplifting ourselves and breaking through those thresholds, personally and mutually. It's always vague. Like I clicked on a video of a guy just staring at a camera like this, and he was talking about some spiritual stuff that I didn't really. I didn't really understand like what he was saying, but I was like kind of imagining psychologically what people are seeing when they watch this. Someone that's like, hi, you can, da da da. And it made me realize, like, I'm confused when I watch this, but so is someone else when they're watching me. Like, we're all just kind of like, we have like a certain like tribe or like channel of voice or like perspective that we can connect to, and we're like, oh, this person gets it, and I totally get this person, and this person's like finally speaking my language. But then you watch someone that's not on that wave, and you're just like, what is this? People watch this? This is crazy. When I saw it, I thought, this is how people see me. It's funny. Like we're all just finding our little niches with people that we can connect with. And when I hear people talking like in ways that don't resonate with me, it doesn't connect. It doesn't turn me on in any way. But in a way, I feel like that's why I make these videos, is like, I don't see anyone online making videos like this, or speaking in the way I speak. And so like this allows me to have like a little bit of a dialogue, or imagine like, well, if someone, I don't have this thing online that I wish I had. And so maybe someone would appreciate this, because if this was online and I could click on this, I think I would understand it because they're speaking my language. And it's easy for me to say because I'm literally speaking my language. Because everything I've said here might not make sense to you, or the passerby, or the people that watch the channel that I was mentioning earlier. But for me to watch this, I would understand it. I'd be like, oh yeah, I do know that vagueness and that tip of the tongue feeling. You never can figure out that thing that you've always trying to accomplish. It's so simple, yet so complicated. It's your biggest challenge, yet it's not a big deal. I think at the end of the day, we never face things until we have to. And that have to can be we're on our knees and we got hit down and we have to face something head on for like drastic reasons, or we can create this radical accountability and this like internal leader that says enough is enough, and finding that balance of being strict and having a standard of the things that you want to do or no longer want to do, but having a balance of knowing that you're human. Like for me the other day, I was just like, I always say that I need to take a break from coffee, but I never do it. And I always, as I start to talk about it, I'm like, oh, well, there's this reason why I don't do it yet. And then it's just like, well, you're never going to quit if you're not like straight up. And so after that moment, it just hit me where there was this internal voice where it was just like, just don't drink coffee. And if you get a little bit of a headache, then maybe drink like a sip of coffee, but just like try not to drink coffee and see what happens. And I took a week off of coffee after that realization. And then I was driving past a coffee shop that I just love their coffee, and I went and had one cup after a week of not having, and it felt like it was like a ceremony. It just felt so like invigorating, and it was a really cool experience to be able to kind of celebrate that I was able to take a week off, which I hadn't done in honestly probably 2 years, which is cool. And I just felt like the things that I knew I'd probably feel, but I was able to feel them and fully confirm. And so I was able to confirm the feelings that the coffee was giving me, where I was getting jittery or just like too like, and I was also able to confirm like where when I drink coffee that I can still stay calm if I do it in a certain way, where I put it in my timeline of each day, and like just how do I hold the presence of my body and incorporate it into my life, so it's not just this tool of it's like it's more of a tool than like a dependency, like trigger substance. Not sure what I'm filming this for, but for some reason I'm always like, I need to film today. And then this is what I'm doing. Like I just sit down and talk about some random thing I figured out or thought about. I don't know. I'm supposed to make these videos. It's helpful for me. I don't know. I have like a little bit of a smile on my face because I just think it's so ridiculous. But I'm proud of myself for knowing that I don't, like I care, like I want to get gradual progression in the quality of the videos and the impact the videos make and the reach the videos have. I do care about that, but at the same time, it's like enjoying the terrible metrics. Like, I don't even look. I honestly don't know how many views I got on my last video, but I'm sure it was absolutely terrible. So I just have this little grin of like, it's so bad. It's so low ROI right now, yet it's the most important thing. Like it's like this leverage tool I need to do. And it's like with coding. Like 3 years ago, I ran out of money. I went from living in like a 12-bedroom house in Portugal to my mom's basement. And I was trying to figure out what I needed to do, and I had a team, and I had a runway and a budget for hiring people and telling people what I was envisioning we create and selling that and raising funds and all this stuff, and it just sort of flatlined. It was the end of this like crypto boom, and we ran out of money. And so I was like, well, what do? I don't have money to pay people to build ideas, and what little I had left I was using to kind of alley-oop my final idea with like the one developer I had left. Deep down, I knew it wasn't going to work, and I was like a few steps away from the product, and I was never really sure how to work with developers, and I didn't know how to code, and I just didn't know what I was doing. I had enough ability to kind of like puppeteer the landscape of tech, and that works sometimes, but I needed to know how to code, and I needed to know how to design, and I needed to know how to like bring it all together by myself. And every time I'd be like, what should I do? Should I go get a job? Should I go get like a labor job or like an information job? Like, I don't know who I am, and I don't know my value. Started applying for jobs and just got denied every job. Even jobs were like jobs for the amount of pay and the skill of like my lowest paid, lowest skilled employee the year before. I was getting rejected for those jobs. Like, I got rejected for everything I applied for. Everything I reached out for, every proposal, like everything, it was ignored or rejected. And I'm like, what am I supposed to do? And there would be this little voice in my head that was just like, just learn coding. And I'm like, I don't want to code. Like, at that point, I had like more back tension. I'm like, I can't sit and like code. I don't want to. I can't. Like, physically, I don't think I could. And even if I could, like, I don't want to be a coder. Like, I don't. What? And so I just kept hearing this voice. And so like, all right, I'll just focus today on like learning to code. I'll watch some tutorial videos and I'll learn to code, whatever. Like, this voice is clearly here. And I know it's like it keeps coming back. So it's clearly like there's something there. There's a thread there. And so I started to code, and then, within a day or 2 days, I was like, whoa, this is cool. I would have paid my old coders and hired designers, done all the stuff that I would have had to pay like, $3,000, $5,000, $10,000 for, but I did it myself in like a day. What was I doing that whole time? What were they doing? And so I realized, like, okay, coding's not as crazy or as hard as I thought it was. And also, like, I was hiring coders that weren't that good, because it's been 2 days I can create what I was, having a hard time getting people to pay to do, or I'd at least have to pay thousands to get. Like, I just did this for free, and I did it myself. And then I just started to do that for all my little ideas. And that helped me kind of interact with developers better, most importantly. But it also helped me like have my independence. And then AI and like vibe coding and everything has just taken off to a point where like it's so easy to create if you just put in the work to understand the basic fundamentals. You can empower yourself to such a crazy degree that you have everything that I was lacking when everything fell apart for me. And it's not for everyone. It's one facet of many facets to choose from, but it's definitely a big thing. But that voice that was like, just do it, that has led me to a place where now I'm like, that voice was correct. That voice was an angel. That voice was like my soul. That voice was something deeply right. Like, where is that voice? Because there's these other voices, these fear voices, there's these stressful voices, there's these loopy, voices. But there's also this voice of like guidance and pulling you towards the path. And that same voice that told me to learn to code, that voice tells me to make these videos. And so I'm like, I need to make these videos. But when I think about these videos that I sit here and explain in some, non-eloquent way how I'm quitting coffee, but don't quit coffee, but this is my view of it. It's really useful to me, and it's real. Like, there's no like script, there's no like packaged like video, the 5 steps to do this and this and this. It's just me creating entries, which is useful to me, and that's what matters. And it's the same thing with coding. It ended up being useful to others. Now I code and people pay me for it. And now I code and I help and support my more talented, I guess he's my CTO. I don't know. He's Damien. But my coding abilities are useful to him now, and useful to our shared vision of the cloud, the tool that we're building. And so coding was like the key. If it wasn't for me learning coding, I wouldn't have the income that I'm having. which is enough to, like, I see it expanding quite well, and I wouldn't be able to build this project which I'm super excited about. So that voice is telling me to make these videos. So we'll see. But it's also that's why it's funny, like, because I trust it. Like, I know it's gonna lead to the right thing. And when I was coding, and it was like, what am I doing? Building this random website that's completely like not gonna go anywhere, but like it was kind of cool. That was the first renditions of coding. Was like I'd code and then I'd hit a wall and I'd be so stressed because all this work was for nothing, and then I finished the product and I'm proud of it, but I realized it's just a demo. So in a way, it's still for nothing. But I slowly began to see that it was worth it, especially now. Now it's like one of the best choices I made in the last 3 years. And not pulling out during sex so that I had my 2 daughters. Those were some of the best decisions I made in the last 3 years. But coding, like learning to code, so important. But if you put me in a room of expert coders, I'm not a coder. Like, it's not like I'm like some coder. But if you put me in a room of people that were willing to learn to code, or people that wanted someone to help them and they were expert coders, I'm pretty useful. And if you put me in a room where I could lead coders building something, I'm very useful. Whereas before it was kind of like productive. So anyways, I'm sitting at 18 minutes. My hard drive, my SD card's got like 20 minutes left. I'll see where my battery's at. So I built this website. See if you can see it. I think my battery's 8%. Not sure why this isn't loading. Anyways, there's an admin panel that allows me to manage. Yeah, this is bad. The battery's just so dead.